let me go back to the kind of the first. I'm a little bit of an oddball in this group, as you know, and I worked hard. Well, I've worked hard all my life, but anyway, but on this subject, I've worked on it. And being a Republican, I always, of course, went to the Republicans because it was easier to get in and talk, or I thought it was. And then one day, I didn't get anywhere, and that went on for years. I didn't like, for 40 years, that we had no energy plan in America, none, zero. But the reason we didn't have, two reasons. One, we didn't have the leadership to speak up and say, we've got to get off of the foreign oil, and we're importing more and more all the time. That was never said. I was the only one saying it, and nobody listened to me. And then I decided I was going to do something. I had to do something because my time was running out. I'm 81 years old. I fully understood the problem, and I felt like I had a solution for the problem. That was get on our own resources was the way to do it. And so I thought, you know, I met Senator Reid one time, and I thought, he's a nice guy. He'll listen to me. And I went to him in June of last year, and we had a 15-minute meeting that went an hour and 15 minutes. And when we got through, we got up, and he said, Boone, he said, I think you're on the right track. I encourage you to pursue what you want to do. I told him I was going to spend $60 million to tell the story. That's back when I was rich, Senator. A lot of things have happened since then. But I spent the 60 before I went downhill a little bit. But anyway, I got my money's worth, and a great part of it was because of you. And you encouraged me to do it. And so I did, and I told, I got out and explained pretty well what the problem was in a very simple way. And that was we were dependent, and it was a very grave security problem for America. Along the way, Vice President Gore and I talked, and he asked me, you know, how you feel about climate. And I said, it's not the most important thing for me, but I do believe we are having global warming. And not many geologists will say that, but I did believe it. And Al and I decided to work together on the problem, but security was number one for me. We have got to get off the dependency of foreign oil. So then you look to our resources. What resources do we have? We talked about wind and solar here today. The grid has to be updated, and we've got to get this started and not just talk about it. Well, this is the first time, and you know, this is a great feeling for me, because this is the first time that I've ever sat down. I know this is our third meeting. I'm not getting too old to remember that we've had 3 meetings now, but we've had many, many telephone calls and everything else. But for the first time, this country is seriously looking at what we're going to do about, one, global warming, but also the dependency on foreign oil. And do we have resources that can solve the problem? And we do have those resources. Let me just go right at it now to get to a point as far as scale's concerned and all. But you said, you know, that we were importing 12 million barrels. You did, I think, Wes said 12 million. At times it's been 13 million. It's a little under 12, but demand changes along the way, and that. But nonetheless, the overall trend is up. But 4.5 million barrels come to us out of that are, I think, is very questionable as to, you know, are they friends or do they dislike us? And a great part of it comes from people that really do not like us. And when we're importing 25%, we're using 25% of all the oil every day in the world, 25%, with 4% of the population. There's going to be a point where some of that oil is going to, either the price is going to be so high that it'll just choke us, or it's going to be cut off, one or the other. Some way, somehow, it's going to have a very sad ending to it. But when you look at, just focus with me for a second, the 18-wheelers what we call Type 8 trucks in America, 6.5 million of them, if those were over to natural gas, and I'm with Al on battery for light duty and all, but the battery won't move an 18-wheeler. So go to the resource we have and just see what it does for us if we, as those diesels are retired, that they were required to go to natural gas. The Southern California model that the South Coast Air Quality Management District did. Just buy new natural gas and not diesel. And that is in H.R. 1835 and Senate Bill, Senator Reid's Bill 1408. It's there and it can happen. Let's say it did happen and we got all 6.5 million of those vehicles on our natural gas. That would cut the 4.5 million barrels we get from OPEC in half. It'd be a little better than that. It'd be 2.7 million barrels is what it amounts to. That is real. That can be accomplished, and it could be accomplished in a matter of, I think, less than 10 years. Thank you.